18-year-old black girl falsely accused by cops, everyone in court shocked when she flashes CIA badge. Rain drizzled over the worn steps of the Fulton County Courthouse, where 18-year-old Aria Thompson stood shivering in her hoodie. Inside the courtroom, a heavy hush blanketed the spectators, most of whom assumed she was just another black teenager lost in a system stacked against her. But Aria held an ironclad secret under that nervous facade. Two arrogant police officers, who had hastily accused her of grand theft and resisting arrest, snickered openly at her supposed helplessness. Little did they know, their smug laughter would soon dissolve into collective gasps when Aria reached into her bag and flashed a piece of identification that no one in that courtroom ever expected: her CIA badge. Aria Thompson had always been different. By 15, she'd skipped 2 grades and received a partial scholarship to attend special summer programs in computer science at Georgia Tech. By 17, she was finishing high school early while balancing online college courses. Her mother, Dr. Helena Thompson, was a pediatrician at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, and her father, Nathan Thompson, owned a small tech consulting firm. Together, they supported Aria's insatiable thirst for learning. She devoured advanced textbooks, excelled at hackathons, and quietly outshone most of her peers without making a fuss. Despite her brilliance, Aria struggled with the usual teenage insecurities fitting in at school, grappling with identity and navigating a world where being a young black female meant battling stereotypes at every turn. But she rarely let it show. She had her family's unwavering support, a handful of close friends, and a bright future beckoning. No one, not even her parents, expected the CIA to come knocking at their door. But during one of Aria's forays into collegiate-level cybersecurity classes, she attracted the attention of a government talent scout. Impressed by her skill at decrypting a mock data set in record time, they reached out discreetly. By age 18, Aria found herself enrolled in a specialized CIA Youth Fellowship, an experimental pipeline. The agency was quietly testing for gifted high school graduates to groom them into future intelligence analysts or field agents. Usually, the CIA required a college degree, but Aria's unique skill set and language proficiencies, she'd taught herself Mandarin and was working on Russian, placed her in a category all her own. There were conditions, of course. She needed to keep her involvement under tight wraps. She was still legally an adult, just barely, and had passed rigorous background checks. The fellowship's orientation had her traveling to the George Bush Center for Intelligence in Langley, Virginia, for short stints of specialized training. The prospect of a CIA badge at 18 sounded unbelievable to most, but Aria lived it. She handled the secrecy well until everything unraveled one mild spring afternoon on an ordinary outing to the local Target in Midtown Atlanta. Aria had hopped off the MARTA bus, needing to pick up a couple of items for her dorm room. She was moving to an extended stay facility near Georgia Tech to be closer to both her college classes and her hush-hush government commitments. Dressed in casual leggings and a sweatshirt, Aria strolled the aisles, scanning a short shopping list on her phone. She found a pair of good noise-cancelling headphones on sale, perfect for the nights she had to study for hours. But as she walked toward the self-checkout, she noticed 2 uniformed police officers enter the store, tension radiating from their postures. Aria barely paid them mind. She'd done nothing wrong. Yet she sensed them hovering near electronics, eyeing every shopper with heightened suspicion. She shrugged it off, chalking it up to routine patrol. Scanning her items at the self-checkout, Aria tapped her phone to pay. She collected her bag and headed toward the exit, only to find the same officers blocking her path. One was older, tall, with a shaved head and a piercing stare. The other was heavier set, chewing gum loudly, his posture oozing arrogance. Their name tags read Officer Carol and Officer Mendez. "Hold up," Carol snapped. "We got a report of someone shoplifting headphones. Mind stepping aside, miss?" Aria's heart thudded. She froze, confusion swirling. "I paid for these," she protested quietly, lifting her receipt and still bagged items. Mendez snatched the receipt without asking. "Is that so?" "Because we have camera footage that might say otherwise." Heat pricked her cheeks. "I literally scanned and paid. You can check the transaction log right there." The older officer's lip curled in a sneer. "You don't get loud with me, girl. I say you're suspect, so you come with us." Aria's mouth went dry. She tried to remain calm. "I'm not being loud. I'm just telling you to check the store's system." But her protest fell on deaf ears. Carol grabbed her arm roughly, yanking her aside. Aria winced, a swirl of shock and anger flooding her. A crowd formed, phones coming out to record. This was not the first time someone in Midtown had captured questionable police conduct. "You have no right," Aria exclaimed, voice trembling. "I'll cooperate, but you're hurting me." Instead of relenting, Mendez sneered. "Quit whining." He twisted her arm behind her back, snapping on handcuffs. In a matter of moments, Aria Thompson, the brilliant 18-year-old, about to start a hush-hush career with the CIA, stood cuffed and humiliated in a Target entrance, surrounded by gawkers. Her entire world reeled. She hadn't stolen a single thing, but the cops refused to listen. The short ride to the nearby precinct was a blur of panic and outrage. Aria's phone was confiscated, her pleas to call her parents or show proof of purchase brushed aside. "You'll get your call at the station," Carol said dismissively. She was placed in the back of a squad car, the seat sticky with grime. Her mind spun with a million thoughts. How do I fix this? If my CIA orientation superiors find out I got arrested, what happens? Should I reveal my badge now? But her instincts told her that these cops, already on a power trip, might escalate if she whipped out a CIA badge. She wanted to avoid a confrontation that could turn violent. Besides, her top-secret fellowship insisted she keep her identity under wraps. Typically, she was only to reveal the badge in life or death emergencies, or at a secure facility. This fiasco didn't seem to qualify yet. At the precinct, the booking process felt surreal. Carol marched her inside, ignoring her attempts to clarify. Mendez filled out paperwork, labeling the offense as theft and resisting arrest. Aria tried to speak, but the desk sergeant waved her off. She was fingerprinted, photographed, and put into a holding cell with several other women in varying states of distress. Tears threatened at the corners of her eyes, but she fought them back. "Stay calm," she told herself. "You haven't done anything wrong. This will get cleared up." But deep down, she wasn't so sure. She'd heard horror stories of how easily the justice system steamrolled innocent people, especially young black women, with no big name or wealth behind them. Time crawled. Hours passed. She asked for her phone call multiple times. An officer snapped, "You'll get your turn." Another insisted, "We're short-staffed. Sit tight." Finally, near midnight, a different officer, a black woman named Officer Simone Johnson, approached the cell, calling Aria's name. "Come on," Johnson said gently, unlocking the cell door. "You can make your call." Aria mustered a shaky smile of gratitude. She followed Johnson to a small phone kiosk, heart hammering. Officer Johnson lingered, arms folded, observing her with a mixture of sympathy and curiosity. Aria dialed her mother's cell. At that late hour, it rang 4 times before Dr. Helena Thompson answered. "Mom," Aria blurted, voice trembling. "I'm at the precinct. They arrested me for shoplifting." But it's a mistake. I did nothing wrong. She cradled the phone, tears now spilling. They won't even check the receipt or footage. Her mother gasped, dropping into her calm, authoritative doctor tone. Arya, oh my God, are you hurt? I'm fine, Arya said, voice shaky. Please come get me, or call someone. Officer Johnson motioned for her to wrap up. Arya quickly told her mother which precinct she was in. Then the line was cut. The last sound she heard was her mother saying, "We'll be there soon, baby. Hang on." Returning to the cell, Arya settled on the bench, hugging herself. She felt the weight of a terrifying question. How would this fiasco affect her CIA future? She pictured the moment she'd been handed the small black badge that bore an official agency crest. She recalled how proud her father looked. They had all sworn secrecy. It was borderline surreal that she, at 18, was part of a government intelligence pipeline. Now, in a dirty holding cell, she wondered if that dream was slipping away due to racial profiling and incompetent cops. 3 more hours passed. Dawn tinted the grimy windows a pale grey. Finally, an officer came in, announcing, "Thompson, you're up." Arya was led out, stiff-limbed from dozing on a hard bench. She assumed she'd be meeting her parents, maybe a lawyer, maybe even getting an apology. Instead, she was escorted to a small interrogation room with a scuffed table and a single flickering overhead light. Carol and Mendez were inside, arms folded, smirking. "Your parents made a lot of noise," Carol said, flipping a file open. "But we're not dropping charges. We saw you walk out with those headphones." Arya's eyes burned with exhaustion. "I paid for them. Check the store logs." Mendez shrugged. "Store management is still looking into the footage. Meanwhile, we have probable cause. So you'll be booked for petty theft plus resisting." "Resisting?" Arya repeated, outraged. "I never resisted." Carol leaned forward. "You pulled away from me at the entrance. That's resisting. It was ludicrous." Arya realized these two were doubling down, uninterested in the truth. She felt a surge of fury. "This is the moment," she thought. "I can't let them ruin my life." She weighed the risk of flashing her CIA credentials right then. But what if they dismissed it as a fake or grew violent? Before she could decide, Mendez drawled, "We might be willing to cut you some slack if you confess to attempted theft. A single misdemeanor. No big deal, just a fine and a slap on the wrist. But if you keep lying, the DA might push for more." Arya stared at him, incredulous. They wanted her to lie, to accept guilt for something she didn't do. She swallowed, hating the predicament. No way. She shook her head. "I'm not confessing to a crime I didn't commit." Carol snarled, "Fine. Enjoy your arraignment." They marched her back to the cell. As Arya sat again, exhaustion pressing in, she felt the slightest flicker of resolve. "When I see a judge, I'll get a chance to speak." If these cops persisted with their story, she might have no choice but to reveal her CIA connection. She dreaded the scandal, the breach of secrecy. But if the alternative was a false conviction at 18, she prayed that the actual store footage and records would surface soon. "Just hold on, Arya," she told herself. But she also knew the system sometimes moved at a glacial pace. By the time the truth came out, she might be branded a thief. In the hush of early morning, she recalled her father's parting words before she left for training. "We trust you to do the right thing, honey. But remember, intelligence work can get murky. Make wise choices." She wondered if, ironically, her wise choice was to lay everything on the line. At around 7 a.m., Arya was finally released on a station-level arrangement. Her parents, frantic, posted bail after the formal booking, ensuring she could come home until the court hearing. Helena and Nathan Thompson waited anxiously in the lobby when Arya emerged, bleary-eyed and still in yesterday's clothes. Helena rushed forward, wrapping her in a fierce hug. "My baby, oh God, are you hurt?" Arya shook her head, tears slipping free. "I'm okay, just exhausted." Nathan's jaw clenched. "We demanded to speak with the officers, but they refused. This is insane." Officer Johnson, the only one showing a hint of empathy, guided them through the exit. "You'll get your day in court. If the store footage exonerates her, the charges should be dropped." "I'm sorry this happened." Outside, the morning air felt both liberating and suffocating. Arya's father started bombarding her with questions the moment they got in the car. What exactly happened? Why would they accuse you? Arya recounted the fiasco step by step, voice shaky. Her mother fumed. "This is blatant racial profiling. You had the receipt." They just didn't bother looking. Nathan pressed a hand to his forehead. "This could damage your record, Arya, your future, your CIA." He cut himself short, remembering to avoid discussing her top-secret involvement in public. Arya stared out the window. "I know. They offered me a deal to confess, which I refused. I'm hoping the store logs come through and prove I paid." Helena inhaled sharply. "We have to get a lawyer. We can't rely on them to fix this." Back at home, after Arya finally showered and changed, the weight of what transpired fully sank in. She had never been arrested before, let alone had her mugshot taken. The humiliating memory stung. She paced the living room, arms folded, while her parents conferred in hushed tones about hiring a defense attorney. They knew from church Mark Sullivan, an experienced criminal lawyer in Atlanta. When they told Arya, she agreed. "Yes, please. I need a real professional to handle this." Within hours, Mark Sullivan arrived at the house. A stout man with salt and pepper hair, Sullivan listened intently as Arya recapped the details. He frowned, scribbling notes. "So, we have two cops, Carol and Mendez, claiming you shoplifted. The store management is dragging their feet, apparently. That's odd. Target usually cooperates quickly." Arya blinked. Maybe they didn't check thoroughly? Sullivan tapped his pen. They might have, but the cops could be giving them a story. Or they're slow, walking the request. "We'll push them. Meanwhile, you've got an arraignment in a couple of days." Helena squeezed Arya's hand. "She's innocent, Mark." "This is nonsense." Sullivan nodded. "I've handled cases like this before. We'll see if the judge is open to dismissing once we produce the receipt or footage. But if the cops maintain you didn't pay, we'll need more evidence like your bank or credit card transaction showing the purchase." "That's a straightforward approach." Arya brightened slightly. "Yes, I used Apple Pay. My phone has a record." Her father sighed. "But they took your phone at the precinct. You only got it back after we posted bail." Arya retrieved her phone. "The transaction should be in my Apple Wallet history. Or maybe my bank statement." She opened the app. There it was, a time-stamped charge for the exact amount. She exhaled relief. "Perfect," Sullivan said, satisfied. "That alone should sink their case. I'll get the receipt from Target too. The only wild card is if the cops spin some bizarre story about you forging or using a stolen payment method. But that's far-fetched." Arya nodded. "They'll try. But how could I forge an Apple Pay transaction? That's insane." Despite the apparent slam-dunk evidence, Arya still felt unsettled. She recalled the officers' hostility. Something about their manner suggested they might not let facts get in the way of their pride. She also felt a mounting fear about her CIA future. She dreaded the possibility that the agency might dismiss her for legal entanglements or for dragging public attention to her identity if forced to testify. Trying to find a moment alone, Arya retreated to her bedroom. She glanced at the drawer where she kept the slim black CIA credentials. Lifting it gingerly, she studied the badge. So official, so life-altering. She dreamed of using it to help protect her country, maybe investigate cyber threats, not to get out of a petty false theft charge. She wrestled with the question, should I reveal this in court if things go badly? Or would that break every confidentiality rule? Exhaustion pulled at her limbs, but anxiety kept her awake. She lay on her bed, mind churning with possible outcomes. She imagined the hearing. Would the judge laugh off the cops' claims? Or would the cops double down, pushing the narrative that she was combative? By the time night fell, Aria resolved to follow Mark Sullivan's legal strategy, use Apple Pay logs, demand the store footage, rely on the system to correct this injustice. But in the back of her mind, she prepared for the worst. If they push me into a corner, I will show them who I truly am. The morning of the arraignment arrived too soon. Aria dressed conservatively black slacks, a simple blouse hoping to present a respectful, no-nonsense image. She and her parents rode to the Fulton County Courthouse with Mark Sullivan, quiet tension saturating the car. Outside the stately building, the air was thick with humidity. Aria's stomach churned as they passed through security. She'd never set foot in a courtroom like this, except on a school field trip as a child. The ornate foyer, the swirl of attorneys in suits, the echo of distant footsteps, it all felt surreal. Sullivan led them to a small conference room to finalize strategy. We have your Apple Pay record printed out. I also have your bank statement. I subpoenaed the store's surveillance, but haven't heard back yet. I'll push the prosecutor to drop the charges. Aria took a steadying breath. What if the officers lie again? Sullivan's eyes narrowed. They probably will, but we'll present the evidence. Usually for petty theft, if the defendant shows a valid receipt, the case crumbles. The judge might scold the cops for wasting time. Helena patted Aria's shoulder. We'll get through this, baby. They entered the courtroom. Aria's heart pounded. She spotted Officer Carroll and Officer Mendez seated near the front, looking smug. At the prosecutor's table was an assistant district attorney scanning some file. Aria swallowed hard, anger flaring at the unfairness of it all. When the case was called, Aria moved forward with Sullivan, her parents behind her. The judge, an older black woman named Judge Patrice McKenna, peered down from the bench. Case number 22, CR 4510, People versus Aria Thompson. Charges, petty theft, resisting arrest. Sullivan stepped up. Your Honor, Mark Sullivan for the defense. My client pleads not guilty, and we have conclusive evidence of her lawful purchase. He handed documents to the clerk, printouts of the Apple Pay transaction, a screenshot of her bank statement. Judge McKenna flipped through them. This is interesting. Mr. Sullivan, it appears your client's phone logs confirm she made a purchase at the store. I see a timestamp matching the approximate time of the alleged theft. Before Sullivan could respond, the prosecutor, a young man named Adrian Yu, cleared his throat. The officers maintain Miss Thompson evaded the scanner or left without paying. They say the store has suspicious camera footage. Sullivan frowned. Is that footage available? You hesitated. Not yet. The store claims they need more time to retrieve it. Sullivan shook his head. Your Honor, this is a runaround. We have digital proof of payment. My client was forcibly arrested despite showing her receipt. We ask for immediate dismissal. Judge McKenna tapped her pen on the bench. Mr. Yu, do you truly intend to pursue charges if the defense's payment records are genuine? Yu shrugged apologetically. Your Honor, I must rely on the officer's statements. Possibly the phone record is incomplete, or the transaction was reversed. We request a short continuance to verify the store footage. Aria tensed. She saw Carroll smirk from the gallery, while Mendez allowed himself a small grin. They seemed confident the judge would side with them. Sullivan bristled. Your Honor, these charges rely solely on the word of 2 officers who refused to check a valid receipt at the scene. My client spent a night in jail for no reason. At the very least, we request the immediate drop of the resisting arrest charge. She never resisted, and the body cam footage, if they have it, would show that. Carol's face darkened. The prosecutor coughed. We do not have body cam footage at this time, Your Honor. The officers claim it malfunctioned. A ripple of disbelief spread through the courtroom. Judge McKenna's brow furrowed. Malfunctioned body cam, missing store footage, yet we have a digital receipt. Something's off. I'll set a hearing 1 week from now. Mr. I expect the store footage by then, or a thorough explanation. In the meantime, Miss Thompson is released on her own recognizance. The resisting charge remains pending unless you produce exculpatory evidence. The gavel rapped. Aria's shoulders slumped. She was relieved not to be remanded, but frustrated that the matter wasn't dropped altogether. Carol and Mendez strolled out, pointedly ignoring her. As Aria exited the courtroom, her parents flanked her protectively. This is madness, her mother muttered. 1 more week of agony. Sullivan tried to reassure them. It's a stall tactic, but once the store footage emerges, we'll squash this. Aria nodded, though an uneasy feeling lingered. Something told her that Marsh and Mendez know. That was from a different story. Let's remain consistent. Note, the user's request doesn't mention Marsh or Mendez from previous story. We must remain consistent with the current story's cops. Officers Carol and Mendez might keep playing games. Perhaps they had an ally in the store security, or some trick up their sleeve. For now, Aria decided not to reveal her CIA status. The judge seemed fair. The evidence was on her side. She prayed that justice would prevail before she needed to blow her cover. Over the next several days, tension in the Thompson household soared. Aria tried to maintain her normal routine, attending an online class, working on a CIA-assigned coding puzzle for an upcoming orientation, but the specter of that false accusation loomed. She dreaded the idea that if her name got publicly dragged through mud, the agency might drop her from the fellowship to avoid bad press. Sullivan called daily updates. Still, no word on the store footage. They claim a backlog in their system. Aria found that suspicious target had a robust security system, typically retaining footage for easy retrieval. Are the cops pressuring the store to conceal it? She wondered. Or maybe the footage had been lost or tampered with. Midweek, Aria decided to take the initiative. She privately reached out to a friend in the same youth CIA program who specialized in digital forensics, an intense 19-year-old named Kelly Zhou. Using an encrypted messaging channel, Aria explained her predicament. Can you legally check if there's mention of me in any local police system or if the store's camera logs are flagged? She typed, anxious about crossing lines. Kelly cautioned her, we risk breaching protocol, but I'll see what public data is available. I can't hack into the store's system illegally. Aria knew that, so she let it drop. Days slipped by. The upcoming hearing loomed. On the night before it, Sullivan called. Aria's heart sank at his tone. I have bad news, he said. The store claims that the relevant camera footage is partially corrupted. The portion capturing the electronics checkout is missing. They only have footage of you leaving. So it's your word against the cops, unless the judge accepts your phone record as proof. Aria rubbed her temples, a headache blooming. That's insane. Cameras don't just corrupt at the exact moment of purchase. Sullivan sighed. It's suspicious, but proving tampering is another matter. The prosecution might spin it that you bypassed scanning or you use some trick. We'll push back. but be prepared for them to double down on the resisting arrest claim. Arya sank onto her bed after the call, tears stinging. This can't be real. She dreaded the hearing. They'd brand her a liar again. She rummaged in the drawer, pulling out the CIA badge. Is it time to use it? If the cops insisted she was an angry thief, maybe a CIA credential could shock the judge, compelling them to look deeper. But she also knew it risked exposing her covert fellowship. The agency might not appreciate a public spectacle. She had no guarantee that a CIA badge would automatically fix this. The judge might question its authenticity, or the prosecution might claim it was fake. What if that backfires? But a small voice in her mind whispered that she was fighting for her future. If convicted or forced to plea to a minor theft, that record could jeopardize everything. She decided, if Sullivan's standard approach failed at the hearing, she would reveal her real identity. She'd do it carefully, but she wouldn't let these crooked cops or a compromised system trample her innocence. That night, she tossed and turned, haunted by nightmares. She saw Carol sneer, Mendez twisting her arm. She pictured the CIA orientation staff, shaking their heads in disappointment. By dawn, she rose, bleary-eyed, resolved to face whatever came next head-on. On the morning of the hearing, the tension inside the Fulton County Courthouse felt almost electric. Arya walked in with her parents and Mark Sullivan by her side. The corridor was crowded, apparently. Other cases involving questionable police tactics were also on the docket. A local reporter or two hovered about, scribbling in notepads. Arya prayed she wouldn't become a headline. They took seats in the courtroom's second row. Up front, the prosecutor, Adrian Yu, fiddled with his papers. Officers Carol and Mendez sat behind him, their smirks returning once they spotted Arya. She averted her eyes, focusing on Sullivan's last-minute instructions. When the bailiff called her case, Arya stepped forward alongside Sullivan. Judge McKenna presided again. She wasted no time. Mr. You are to produce store footage or a clear explanation. Has that been resolved? Yu cleared his throat. Your Honor, the store has partial footage that doesn't show the moment of scanning. However, it does show Miss Thompson leaving with the merchandise. We maintain the officers had probable cause for arrest. As for resisting, the officers' statements detail how she pulled away, requiring them to use restraints. Sullivan spoke up. Your Honor, we have Apple Pay logs verifying payment. The store's alleged camera malfunction is too convenient. My client never resisted. She politely asked them to check her receipt. This is rank injustice. Judge McKenna's gaze flicked between them. Mr. Yu, is there any direct evidence Miss Thompson did not pay? You hesitated. No direct evidence, but the store manager says Miss Thompson's name didn't appear in their POS logs, maybe because she used a stolen card or an unregistered payment method. Arya's anger flared. She whispered to Sullivan, he's lying. My Apple Pay is linked to my real bank account. Sullivan declared, that's a baseless accusation. Our bank statement confirms a legitimate transaction. He handed more documents to the clerk. Meanwhile, the cops never even tested the device or re-scanned the item. They pinned her as a thief from the jump. Judge McKenna studied the documents. She seemed skeptical of the prosecution's case, but the mention of a missing store log complicated matters. It's highly unusual, she noted, but we do need clarity. Miss Thompson, do you have anything to add? Arya inhaled. She felt the decisive moment looming. The judge was giving her a chance to speak. She glanced at Carol and Mendez's mocking faces. Then she glanced at Sullivan, who gave her a slight nod, meaning he'd support whatever she said. Her parents looked worried, but she had to do something. Stepping forward, Arya said, Your Honor, I'm 18 and have never had a run-in with the law. I'm in advanced college courses. And she paused, swallowing. I also hold a position that requires a spotless record. If I must, I'll prove how critical it is to my standing that this case be dismissed. Mendez snorted audibly. Carroll rolled his eyes. The judge raised a brow. Go on, Miss Thompson. Her heart pounded. She reached into her jacket pocket, retrieving the small black wallet. I was sworn to keep this under wraps, she said quietly, mostly to the judge. But it's my future on the line. With trembling hands, she flipped open the wallet, revealing the shiny CIA emblem and an identification card bearing her photo and name. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The prosecutor's jaw dropped. Murmurs erupted behind them. Even Sullivan looked taken aback. He hadn't known the exact nature of her government fellowship. Carroll and Mendez froze, eyes wide. The room filled with stunned silence. Judge McKenna leaned forward, adjusting her glasses. What is that, Miss Thompson? Aria took a breath. It's my official badge from the Central Intelligence Agency. I'm part of a specialized youth fellowship. I can't elaborate publicly, but suffice it to say, a shoplifting charge would effectively end my involvement. I have no reason to steal. I have everything to lose, a collective hush. The judge stared, weighing the gravity. The prosecutor scrambled. Your Honor, this is highly unusual. She might have a counterfeit badge, or Aria's father from the gallery retorted, It's real. She was recruited months ago. We can produce official letters. Judge McKenna held up a hand to silence the commotion. She studied Aria's badge carefully, then signaled to the bailiff. I want a brief recess. I'll have my clerk contact the appropriate federal office to verify authenticity. She eyed the prosecutor. And unless you have direct proof, Miss Thompson's ID is fake, I suggest you reconsider your approach. Carroll and Mendez shifted anxiously, their confidence rattled. Aria returned to her seat, heart hammering. She overheard whispers. She's CIA? That's insane. She's only 18. The entire hearing felt surreal. 20 minutes later, the judge reconvened. She looked stern. We've received preliminary confirmation from a CIA liaison that Miss Thompson is indeed part of a legitimate program. Given this extraordinary context and the complete lack of credible evidence from the prosecution, I'm inclined to dismiss these charges forthwith. The prosecutor started to protest, but the judge cut him off. Furthermore, I'm troubled by the missing store footage and the officer's contradictory accounts. I will note this for potential review by Internal Affairs. She rapped her gavel. Case dismissed. Miss Thompson, you're free to go. Applause and exclamations rippled through the gallery. Carroll and Mendez stood shell-shocked, faces pale. Sullivan clapped Aria on the shoulder, beaming. Her parents embraced her, tears of relief shining in their eyes. But Aria's gaze locked onto the two officers, their expressions contorted with fury and fear, as if they realized how badly they'd miscalculated. She felt a swell of vindication and a sliver of worry about possible retaliation. For now, though, she was safe, and her name was cleared. She clutched the CIA badge with trembling relief. News of the 18-year-old with CIA badge case spread like wildfire through local media outlets. Within hours, short segments popped up on the evening news. A young woman, allegedly framed for theft, revealed she's part of a secret CIA pipeline. Headlines teased the improbable story, fueling curiosity and debate. Aria found herself at the center of a storm. Journalists called Mark Sullivan's office, clamoring for interviews. Social media erupted with hashtags like #CIA18 and #wrongful arrest. While some praised her brilliance, others questioned the badge's authenticity or ridiculed the notion that someone so young could be CIA-affiliated. Conspiracy theories abounded. The CIA, predictably, was not pleased. Aria received a terse email from her agency contact, summarizing, "We're aware of the situation. We regret your forced disclosure, but require immediate consultation. Please contact us for further instructions." Aria's heart sank, fearing she'd jeopardized her entire fellowship. Her parents fretted about the onslaught of attention. They wanted to protect Aria's privacy, but they also recognized this could be an opportunity to highlight police misconduct. Mark Sullivan warned them the police might lash out. "Officers Carroll and Mendez won't be happy about losing face, but we can't let them harass Aria." Indeed, Carroll and Mendez were furious. Rumor had it Internal Affairs began investigating them for potential misconduct, especially if store footage was tampered with. The possibility of official discipline loomed. The two officers had overstepped, never imagining their teenage target would reveal powerful credentials that exposed them. Meanwhile, Aria's phone buzzed non-stop, with messages, some supportive, some hateful. Friends from her past schools reached out in shock. Even some of her CIA youth fellows messaged carefully, worried about her. The wave of stress overwhelmed her, but she tried to keep calm, leaning on her parents for support. One evening, Ebony Morales, a well-known investigative journalist from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, requested an interview. She specialized in police accountability stories. Aria hesitated. She didn't want to violate CIA protocols further, but Ebony insisted, "We can keep certain details private. Focus on the wrongful arrest and your personal story. Let's shine a light on the real issue: racial profiling and abuse of power." After conferring with Mark Sullivan and her CIA liaison, Aria agreed to a carefully worded interview. They met in a quiet coffee shop. Ebony's questions were direct but respectful. "Why do you think the officers targeted you? What was it like revealing your CIA badge in court?" Aria answered with measured caution, emphasizing that the real injustice was how easily the officers disregarded her receipt and escalated the situation. The article that emerged was titled, "From Wrongful Arrest to CIA Revelation: The Unbelievable Journey of 18-year-old Aria Thompson." Ebony avoided diving into CIA specifics, focusing instead on the bigger theme of policing biases. The piece drew wide attention, spurring debates about prejudice in retail environments and questionable arrests. The public outcry bolstered the Internal Affairs investigation. Civil rights organizations called for a deeper probe into Carroll and Mendez's record. The officers, once brazen, now faced mounting scrutiny. In statements to local press, they insisted they'd followed procedure and that Aria's story was overblown. But few believed them. During this tumult, Aria struggled to return to normal life. She tried resuming her advanced coding exercises, preparing for her next Langley training session, but her phone pinged constantly. Even stepping outside felt loaded with potential paparazzi glimpses. She found an unlikely refuge in phone calls with her CIA peer, Kelly Zhao, who offered moral support. "Hang in there, Aria. The agency might hush this up soon. They'll want to keep you out of the spotlight." Yet Aria realized the cat was out of the bag. She could only hope the CIA wouldn't terminate her fellowship for the forced exposure. Her heart clenched at the thought of losing the future she'd worked so hard for. But she was no longer a silent victim. She had a voice, a platform, and a newly minted sense of purpose. Expose wrongdoing, demand accountability. She resolved to see this through, no matter the personal cost. A week after the court hearing, Aria traveled to a discreet federal building in downtown Atlanta to meet with her CIA liaison, a stoic man named Agent Langford. She arrived early, wearing a conservative suit she hoped would project professionalism. Her nerves jangled. This meeting could define her future with the agency. She was led to a nondescript conference room. Agent Langford greeted her with a firm handshake. "Aria, we've read your account. Quite the ordeal." He motioned for her to sit. "The agency is concerned about the publicity." Aria sank into a chair, shoulders taut. "I'm sorry. I had no choice. They arrested me, and the judge was about to believe them. I had to prove my integrity." Langford's expression softened a fraction. "We understand. No one can fault you for defending yourself. Yet we can't ignore the media frenzy or the implications for your clearance." She swallowed. "Does that mean I'm out?" Langford folded his hands. "Not necessarily. The Deputy Director of Talent has reviewed your case. They see the public outrage over your arrest as a reflection of systemic issues, nothing you orchestrated. You didn't maliciously reveal your affiliation. It was an act of self-preservation." A wave of relief coursed through her. "So, I can remain in the fellowship?" Langford nodded, though his gaze remained serious. "Yes, but with conditions. We'll request you avoid further media appearances discussing CIA details. Keep any references to your training minimal. The agency will quietly affirm your clearance remains intact." Tears pricked Aria's eyes, tears of gratitude. "Thank you. I promise to abide by all guidelines. I never wanted to broadcast my status." Langford gave a small smile. "Your personal story has inadvertently become a symbol. Some within the agency admire your composure. Others worry about potential backlash. Regardless, we stand by you, as long as you maintain discretion going forward." Aria nodded fervently. "I will. I appreciate this chance." He slid a folder across the table. "Your next orientation date is in 3 weeks at Langley. We expect you to attend. In the meantime, focus on your normal life. The agency won't publicly comment, but we will watch your case with interest. If local authorities or press harass you, let us know." After the meeting, Aria walked out into the midday sun, relief battling the lingering anxiety. She was still a CIA fellow. Her dream wasn't shattered. Now, she just needed closure on the fiasco with Carol and Mendez. Let the internal affairs investigators do their job. Let the public see the truth. Returning home, she relayed the good news to her parents. They hugged her, tears of joy shining in Helena's eyes. "I'm so proud of you, sweetie." Nathan exhaled. Maybe something good can come from this mess. The police might finally learn a lesson, but Aria suspected Carol and Mendez wouldn't go quietly. People with that sort of arrogance rarely did. Just when it seemed Aria had cleared the biggest hurdle, trouble resurfaced. One late afternoon, as she left a local cafe near Georgia Tech, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We know who you are." "Don't show your face in court again." Aria's stomach flipped. She guessed it was a threat from the disgruntled cops or their associates. She forwarded the message to Mark Sullivan and to Agent Langford. The latter responded simply, "Log it. We'll be alert." Sullivan insisted she remain vigilant, maybe keep a friend or family with her whenever she went out. A few days later, her father's car tires were slashed while parked outside their house. The same night, a rock crashed through their front window, though no one was hurt. A note taped to it read, "Stop lying or else." The local police took a report but seemed half-hearted, possibly because it implicated fellow officers. Mark Sullivan voiced concerns. "This is direct intimidation. We might push for a protective order." Aria's parents were furious, calling for the police chief's intervention. Aria tried to remain stoic, but fear gnawed at her. Would these bullies escalate to actual violence? Then, a tipping point arrived. Internal Affairs formally charged Carol and Mendez with misconduct after discovering multiple complaints from different store-goers who alleged they'd been harassed or forcibly detained. Also, the partial security footage from the day of Aria's arrest showed the officers ignoring her outstretched receipt. The corrupted portion might have been tampered with, but the snippet that existed painted a damning picture. The police department suspended Carol and Mendez, pending a disciplinary hearing. Local news covered the suspension. Public sentiment turned strongly against the officers. They found themselves shunned by colleagues, booed by activists outside the precinct. Hard karma. Some called it a cosmic payback for the arrogance that had cost Aria her dignity and placed them in the crosshairs of an official probe. Aria felt a perverse sense of relief, but she worried the officers might lash out. Indeed, 2 nights before the disciplinary hearing, a neighbor spotted a suspicious car idling near the Thompson house. The occupant sped off when confronted. Tensions soared. Finally, the day of the police disciplinary hearing arrived. Aria decided not to attend in person. She'd endured enough drama. Instead, Mark Sullivan went as an observer. The hearing was closed to the public, but the outcome leaked soon enough. Carol and Mendez were found in violation of departmental policy, recommending termination. They faced potential criminal charges if the district attorney pursued the matter further. News of the hearing's result broke that evening. Aria was in her living room, working through some encryption challenges for the CIA, when her father burst in, phone in hand. "They're fired, baby," he grinned widely. "And possibly indicted if the DA steps in." Emotion overwhelmed Aria. She let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. She never wanted to ruin anyone's life, but those two had tried to ruin hers. If they lost their badges, it was the direct consequence of their own corruption. Hard karma indeed. Yet she remained cautious, half expecting a final act of retaliation. She updated Agent Langford, who calmly responded that the agency was aware and had flagged potential concerns for her safety. "We can't deploy a protective detail, but local authorities should remain on high alert." Aria prayed that was enough. In the weeks that followed, life gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy. With Carol and Mendez out of the force, the harassing texts and intimidation stopped. Aria's wrongful arrest case was officially expunged from her record. The district attorney's office even considered a settlement for her night in jail, though Aria wasn't sure she wanted to pursue a lawsuit. She mostly wanted to move on. Sullivan and her parents encouraged her to at least file a formal complaint or consider legal damages. This might push the department to adopt better training, Sullivan pointed out. Aria decided to proceed with a limited civil complaint, not for the money, but to force the police to revise procedures around verifying receipts and bodycam usage. The city settled out of court, awarding a modest sum that Aria planned to put toward college expenses. Meanwhile, the CIA fellowship advanced. Aria flew to Langley for her next training phase, quietly slipping away from the media spotlight. She learned advanced data analysis techniques, tested her language skills, and bonded with fellow recruits. The agency never publicly acknowledged her case, but privately, some senior staff expressed admiration for how she handled adversity. One high-ranking official even told her, "We're proud to have resilient young minds like yours." Hearing that filled her with renewed determination. Back home, the Atlanta community buzzed with conversation about Aria's story. Local kids, especially young black girls, saw her as an icon of brilliance and perseverance, a testament that their dreams couldn't be squashed by prejudice. Aria found that notion both flattering and overwhelming. She never set out to become a symbol, but if her experience helped spark change, she accepted that role with grace. Before she knew it, summer turned to fall. She balanced part-time coursework at Georgia Tech with ongoing CIA commitments. Her parents exhaled relief that the worst was behind them. Although they maintained security cameras around the house, no further threats appeared. Carroll and Mendez face potential criminal charges for tampering with evidence in multiple cases, but that was the DA's arena now. One brisk autumn evening, Aria sat under the oak tree in her backyard, a mug of tea warming her hands. She reflected on how much had changed in just a few months. She had gone from a quiet, academically driven teen to a national headline, "Teen CIA Fellow Falsely Accused Stands Her Ground." The entire ordeal had tested her courage, forcing her to reveal secrets she thought she'd keep for years. Yet, ironically, the fiasco cemented her resolve to serve her country. She'd witnessed injustice up close, endured humiliations, and prevailed. The CIA's mission of protecting American interests at home and abroad suddenly felt more personal. She wanted to fight threats to democracy, foreign or domestic, and ensure that no one else got trampled by abuse of power. With a soft smile, she realized that the adversity she faced might be the forging fire for her future as an intelligence officer. She sipped her tea, gazing at the moonlit sky, feeling at peace with her path. Hard karma had indeed found those who tried to frame her, and destiny had guided her to a place of unexpected purpose. Months later, Aria stepped into the bustling Georgia Tech campus as a dual-enrolled student and clandestine CIA fellow. She stayed under the radar, never flaunting her badge except when absolutely necessary at secure sites. The local headlines about her wrongful arrest faded into memory, overshadowed by news stories. But for those who remembered, Aria Thompson remained an emblem of resilience. Officer Carroll and Officer Mendez? Their attempt to sue for wrongful termination fell flat once their internal affairs files went public, revealing a history of borderline misconduct. They'd lost their badges. Rumors said they were still under DA investigation for possible criminal charges. Hard karma, indeed, had played its hand thoroughly. Aria's father ended up posting a short blog about the experience, titled, "My Daughter, the Future She Almost Lost." It resonated with parents everywhere, garnering thousands of shares. He wrote about how close she came to being railroaded, how a single unfair arrest could derail an entire life. He urged communities to demand better policing, transparency, and accountability. Aria sometimes scanned the comments. Strangers wrote things like, "If she can overcome that, so can I." Or, "My daughter wants to go into law enforcement, now maybe she'll be the change we need." Aria realized that her story, while painful, had birthed a ripple of hope. That knowledge gave her comfort. As for the CIA, they quietly nurtured her talents. Aria excelled in advanced cryptography, infiltration simulations, and strategic analysis. She discovered an affinity for bridging cultural gaps, using her knack for languages. Occasionally, she confided in a handful of close CIA peers about the fiasco back in Atlanta. They marveled at how calm she remained under duress. She'd shrug and say, "I had no choice." On a crisp winter day, Aria visited her old neighborhood, strolling past the Target store where the nightmare began. She paused outside, flashbacks swirling. Instead of bitterness, she felt a quiet strength. That day didn't break me, she thought. It forged me. She had turned 18 in a swirl of injustice, but she was stepping into adulthood with a deeper understanding of the system's flaws and a mission to be part of the solution. She turned away, heading for the bus stop. The real secret she carried wasn't just her CIA badge, but the unwavering truth that compassion, courage, and integrity could triumph over prejudice. She no longer felt fear or shame from that humiliating arrest, only a determination to use her gift, her platform, and her badge for the greater good. Thank you for accompanying Aria Thompson on this unbelievable journey from routine shopping trip to an explosive courtroom reveal. Her determination to fight back and maintain her integrity despite a flawed system and shocking betrayal by those sworn to serve reminds us of the power in standing up for what's right. In the end, the very credentials meant to stay hidden became the key to clearing her name and exposing deeper corruption within the ranks. If Arya's story inspired you or opened your eyes to the injustices so many face, show your support by hitting like, sharing this video to spread awareness, and subscribing for more powerful narratives. Together, our voices shine a light on the darkness of prejudice and push for meaningful change. Thank you for watching, and remember, no matter how daunting the odds, courage and truth can prevail when we refuse to back down.